Welcome to the show. This is Trucking with Authority. I am your host, Kenny Long, and for the next hour, consider me your navigator on your journey to success in the trucking business. And that is the topic today. Should you start a trucking business? We can talk about anything from getting started in the business to moving up the ranks, starting as a company driver, going through driver school, buying your first truck, leasing to a carrier. In a market like this, a lot of people are looking at changing carriers. We can talk about making those decisions, getting your own authority, dealing with the FMCSA, record-keeping requirements, insurance requirements, you name it, we can talk about it here. We're streaming live today on Facebook, streaming live on YouTube, and we are streaming live on Blog Talk Radio. Check us out at 917-889-9924. That's 917-889-9924. You can add your questions or comments on the air. When you get on the line, press number 1. That will bring you into the screening room. It has been an amazing year. I mean, phenomenal year so far. 2018 has started off stronger than any year in recent history. The benchmark that I have used on this show for the past several years has been 2014, and we have far exceeded 2014 numbers already, which is a great sign. The economy seems to just be rocking right now. The economy is booming. That's phenomenal. Freight rates are through the roof, still setting records. They are on their traditional trend of dipping a little through February. The latest DAT trend line still shows vans at $2.17 per mile. Even at that rate, we are above any point in all of 2017. In fact, I believe we're above any time in the past couple of years. It has dipped over the past couple of weeks. We're dropped down about 10 cents over what we were about a month ago. It's still phenomenal rates. I mean, just amazing rates. I don't even know what to think about this. I was training a new driver today, and we were going over some of the trend lines information. We were just going over some of the hot market maps and things provided by the DAT load board. And capacity is still, even in February, capacity is still tight over most of the country. There's a few areas where it's starting to dip, which is a traditional trend this time of year, but still tight. So as we come into the end of February and into March, when the spring freight starts to pick up, and certainly as we come into April 1st is when things really start rocking. Traditionally start rocking for the year with springtime freight, but we have to throw in the ELD mandate and the official enforcement deadline, April 1st. The ultimate April Fool's joke for drivers. April 1st will be, I believe, a game changer. It'll be interesting to see what happens April 1st. But should you start a new business, trucking business, or as I was getting ready for the show, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is it a good time to become an owner-operator? Is it a good time to lease to a carrier or to buy your first truck? Is it a good time to make that step? Is it a good time to get your own authority? Or is it a good time to grow a fleet? Is this a good time to grow your business? And all of the numbers are saying, yes, absolutely, it is a good time. It's by far and above the best time we've had in years, possibly ever. Everything is in favor of the trucking industry right now, but really it's in favor of all businesses right now. Business is good everywhere. If you have anything you'd like to add, any comments, go ahead and call the number at the bottom of your screen. That's 917-889-9924. Press number 1 on your keypad once you get started, and we will get your questions and comments on the air. All right. If there are some people saying that we're having audio issues. It sounds good on my end. If anybody can give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, let me know what's going on with the audio out there. and we'll see if we can get it cleaned up. All right, so, and people are commenting all over the place. I'm trying to block these messages out here. So tell me what you're seeing out there. Call the number at the bottom of your screen, 917-889-9924, 917-889-9924. I'd like to hear your opinions on this. Now, I'm looking at indicators outside of the trucking industry. So what I have started to look at is the stock market. Now, stocks have been going up and down. We had a peak just a few weeks ago. We were setting some records. Now, over the past year, the stock market has been significantly, gradually increasing. And until we hit a peak, and over the past few weeks, we have seen the stock market, possibly a correction, some might say, but really nothing to be afraid of from what I'm starting to see in the long-term picture. Stock market looks good. Now, when the stocks are good, that means people are spending money. Interest rates are still in favor of people spending money. So interest rates are still very, very low. Interest rates are low. People are spending money. Consumer confidence numbers are way up. People are buying again. Say what you want about the politics right now, but politically, we are in a good environment for business. We are starting to see more businesses coming back into this country, more manufacturing. That is a very, very good sign for business. More jobs. We're starting to see lower unemployment numbers we've never seen before. Unemployment is, at amazing numbers right now. Manufacturing is up. Consumer confidence is high. Stock market is high, which means investors are spending money, investing more into these companies. All of that combined makes for a fantastic time to be in the trucking industry. When people are buying, when people are spending money, and people are investing, people are building factories, people are... Audio sounds good on both to me. Audio is good. Thank you. So when people are spending money, when people are buying, not just at the manufacturer level, but when people are buying in the stores, when people are buying off the retail shelves, which is what's happening right now, freight is moving. When freight is moving, obviously that's a good thing for the trucking industry. So we have construction projects all over the country. We're still recovering from some of the hurricane season damage from last summer. We're still seeing huge influx of weather-related issues still today with storms and recovering from hurricane last year rolled right into winter storm damage this year. So we're seeing extreme cold temperatures that drove some rates. We're seeing heavy snow that drove some rates. So all of that is fantastic. I really don't see any downside to business. Now, I said that to say this. If everything was opposite right now, if the market was horrible, if rates were in the toilet, if unemployment was way up, if the consumer index and it just wasn't confident right now, there was just no spending going on right there, would it still be a good time to start a business? And my answer to that is absolutely it's a good time. As a matter of fact, when things are tough, if you can find a way to survive, if you can find a way to make a new idea work when times are tough, it's absolutely a good time to start a business. Now, it's hard to start a business when things are tough, but you learn to survive. What I fear right now is that it's absolutely a good time to start a business, but it's a dangerous time if you're not careful. And here's what I mean. You go out and you buy a truck today, and you start running for today's rates, and you start to see that you are making money hand over fist. Every time you step out of the truck, you step into a pile of money. Well, that's a good feeling, and that's great when you're running a business. When you're starting a new business, you might expand your fleet, buy several trucks, 3 or 4 trucks over the next few months. You've got drivers working for you. Everything is great. But those new trucks have new payments, and you have insurance payments, fixed costs. When things get tough again, be very careful that you're not overextended. When you start a business in a very good economy and in a good business climate, especially in the trucking industry, it's extremely dangerous that you could end up overextended and lose everything in a short period of time when things turn around. The market will always correct itself. So as good as things are now, they may stay like this, and I anticipate they will stay like this longer than this type of trend typically lasts. Usually you see a trend of high rates like this last about a year cycle. I think with the new regulations coming on and new enforcement and these phase-in periods, I think we may see this one stick around for a couple of years. At least not see any drastic drops over the next couple of years. That's a good thing. But what often happens, and we saw this happen in 2014. Again, 2014 was a benchmark year for me. I've talked about 2014 over the past few years that I've been doing this show, and I've always compared it to or the rates of whatever day I was doing the show. I always compared it to 2014 because 2014 set records. We're blowing 2014 away right now. But what happened in 2014 is when the rates were great and records were being set, people rush out and buy trucks, expand their fleets. That's how supply and demand works. If it makes sense, if you can make more money buying a truck and starting a new business, that's what you do. That's what prompts people to do things. With supply and demand, the demand is high enough to drive rates up until more people come in, buy trucks, fill the demand, meet that demand. Once the demand is met, you hit a plateau. If demand starts to drop, as it always does, it corrects itself, all of a sudden, the people that went out and bought those trucks find themselves pinching pennies to get by. It may be impossible to survive in a rough market if you built your business based on the numbers in a very good market like we have right now. That's the difficult part. Now, when I started this show, September 2014, my very first show, I said, now is the best time in a long time to start your business and get your own authority. And now that goes down the tier all the way to getting in the door as a new driver, buying your first truck, leasing onto a carrier, building a fleet, getting your own authority. In 2014, that was absolutely the best time to do that. That didn't change in 2015. Every time I do this show, it's the same idea. Now is the best time. There is no better time than now, and I don't care if now is today, tomorrow, or a year from now. I don't care what the market is like. I don't care what any of that is. What really matters is, are you ready? The market shouldn't have anything to do with it. Are you financially ready? Are you physically and mentally ready? And I say physically because, yes, it is physically taxing to run a business. Mentally can be draining. Are you ready for that? Are you financially ready? Do you have the money in the bank? Now, people ask me all the time, how much money do I need to start a business? How much money do I need to buy my first truck? How much money do I need to get my own authority? And I can tell you that number is somewhere between $1 and $1 million. And there is no correct answer. I know very successful people that are now running fleets that started with debt. They bought their first truck on credit. They were financing fuel on credit cards, factoring everything they had. And now they're running multi-million-dollar fleets, and they're doing fantastic. They've gotten rid of their debt, and they're doing great. On the other side of that, there are people that started with a ton of money. The old saying that if you want to make $1 million in this industry, start with $2 million. Well, that's absolutely been the case. And that's what I'm warning you about now. It is a great market, and it's a great time to go into business. And you could be ready to go out and buy a truck right now, pay cash for it, get your own authority, and capitalize on these great rates. But if you build your lifestyle around today's rates, what will happen next year or 2 years or 5 years from now when the rates plateau or maybe drop some? Be ready for that. So in a good market like this, yes, it's a good time to start a business, but it's risky because building a business on these types of numbers can be very misleading as to how your business will survive long term. In a lot of ways, starting a business when times are tough, when freight rates are down, when things are lean, learning how to run a business in that climate can be a better situation. So, is there ever a bad time to start a business? And I would say absolutely not. There is always an opportunity. You just have to find it. Right now, it's easy to find opportunity. Be careful not to risk it all. We have some callers on the line. Elizabeth is in the other room screening calls right now. I'm going to let her screen a few more of these, and then we'll start bringing calls on the air. Call the number at the bottom of your screen if you have anything you'd like to add to this comment here. It's 917-889-9924. When you get on the line, press number 1, and we will get you on the air. We've got a couple here. We're going to jump over to Mike in Delaware. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kenny. Thank you, sir. Hey, these comments you're making about don't get in debt are priceless, because you're absolutely right. You bog yourself down with a ton of payments and a great lifestyle, and things will change. They guaranteed will change. Your operation may change. You might need a different type of trailer. Try to keep it down to where you only have one payment. Whether it's a truck or a trailer. Don't take on anything else until you have that one paid off. We didn't have slow season this year, first time ever.
Right.
I've been in this business for 30-some years, and we've never not had a slow season until this year.
It's unreal.
What did happen is after the first of the year, the volume started going up and the rates exploded. My phone's blowing up every day. This is also a good time to forge relationships with your good, steady customers. Don't gouge them. Let them, they know the rates are up, but stay competitive. Don't gouge your regular customers. Protect them. And hopefully they will protect you when things slow down.
Absolutely.
You talked about bad times, and I totally agree. Some of the best businesses were built during bad times. I've always had a philosophy of 3 things: garbage, crap, and bees. If you're willing to do the things that other people don't want to do, and you get really good at it, you will find your niche and you will make money. Think about the Depression and new immigrants. For instance, the Italians got into a lot of garbage. They became the big trash removers in the big cities. They made millions. Great place to hide bodies too. But the niches are out there. Just be willing to do things other people don't want to do.
Garbage, trash, and bees.
I joke about it. Garbage, crap, and bees.
Garbage, crap, and bees. Okay.
Nope. Garbage, crap, and bees. Nope. Do the things that other people don't want to do. I joke to the brokers that I'm a prostitute with a truck. I'll do anything you want as long as you throw enough money at me. So, but it does have to be legal. So, this is a great show, and you have an amazing amount of wisdom for a young man, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and I hope everybody out there listens and takes what you say to heart, because these concepts you're stating are true, and you can take them to the bank every time. But just wanted to tell you what a great job you're doing, and I'm proud of you, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And finding the niche, garbage, crap, and bees. I like that. That's a good way to think about it. Do the stuff nobody wants to do, and that's the best way to make it happen. So it looks like our call screener had to step out, but I'll keep taking the calls. If you have anything else any of you would like to add, call in the number at the bottom of your screen, 917-889-9924. Press number 1. We've got a few calls that she's already screened. I'll get to those here in a few moments. And after that, I'll just have to bring you on by your area code, and we'll go from there. So we'll jump to Highwayman in Arkansas.
What's happening?
How are you? What's on your mind? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I like what you're doing on the show. I've called in before. I've been out here since 1986. And like the other fella said, you got a lot of wisdom for a young kid.
I appreciate that.
These older people out here ought to take heart to what you're doing. But I wanted to inform people about these bill of ladings. We seem to be having a problem that a lot of people don't realize it's independent still, like me.
Right.
I picked up a load this morning, or late last night, and they refused to put my name on that bill of lading. And I told them, I said, well, if you don't, they're going to have to take that off my truck. It's just illegal for me to haul that without my carrier name on there.
Right.
Even though I brokered it through another company. Well, long story short, I got a hold of the supervisor and they wrote my name in on the ticket, the bill of lading. But people don't realize that Obama done that MAP 21, and if your name is not on that bill of lading, and on the side of your truck it has your name, not leased to somebody, but your name, and your name is not on that bill of lading, you're hauling illegal.
Yeah, and you're taking a lot of risk doing it.
And I just want, you're taking a lot of risk, especially if you get pulled over and they confiscate the load. Not seeing that your name is on that bill of lading, and they see the name on the side of the truck, they're going to think you stole the load.
Yeah, and another situation
I just
is
want people out there to be informed about that.
Yeah, and if you have any type of a cargo claim and your insurance company gets involved, as soon as they see that your name is not on the bill of lading, your insurance company could refuse to pay the claim because you are not the carrier of record on that. And the broker, their insurance company, will turn to you and say that you're responsible. So you could personally be held responsible if there was some type of a freight claim and your name is not on that bill.
That's correct. And I by the way, the lady there, she told me, she said, well, you're going to tell the world's biggest chicken factory they've been doing it wrong all these years. I said, I ain't telling you doing it wrong. I'm just telling you it's against the law.
Yep.
And they had it was a big argument there at that Tyson's chicken place. I don't care to say the name. I haul a lot of shit for them. But anyhow, they got in a big uproar and refused to write that name until I got a supervisor out there. And I just want people to know when they pick up the bill of lading, they better check that bill of lading.
The bill of lading it used to be regulated. During the days, everybody talks about deregulation, but back before the deregulation, there was a standard bill of lading. Everybody had to use the same one. It's still on the Federal Register. You could still look it up. It's still the best bill of lading to use because it provides all the proper protection, meets all the legal requirements. But now that after deregulation, a lot of these companies have gone to their own version, which is, might as well be something drawn up on a cocktail napkin with some of the stuff they have. It's pretty much worthless. There's no protections to it whatsoever. But the bill of lading, no matter what it is, even if it is a cocktail napkin, it says bill of lading on it, it is actually a federal legal document. And in a court of law, it holds a lot of weight. If you have a claim, if you have a dispute with a broker, if you have any type of a legal dispute, that bill of lading is the most important document you have. And what's bad about that is most drivers don't realize it. They crumble it up, throw it on the floor of their truck. They don't pay attention to who's signing what it says. They don't pay attention to where they sign. Did you know that most bill of ladings have what we call Section 7? And most people don't realize this, but Section 7, it says something to the effect of, the carrier shall not deliver this load until paid in full. As soon as the carrier delivers that load, if they have not been paid in full, by default, they have closed the transaction. Essentially what they have done is, they have said, we deliver this load, we agree that we have been paid what it takes to deliver this load. The shipper does not have to pay the freight bill at that point. The carrier has closed the transaction. Now, most of the time, The carrier is extending some type of credit to the broker, but they're not extending credit to the shipper. If the shipper signs that, you pretty much waive your right to collect if the broker decides not to pay you. There's nothing you can do about it. That is on the bill of lading. Most drivers ask the shipper to sign there because on the bill of lading, that's where it says shipper signature. If the shipper signs there, the carrier may not get paid and there's no recourse. The shipper should sign somewhere else, but it looks like that's where the shipper is supposed to sign on most bill of ladings. And a lot of people don't ever read that fine print that says that. We have had...
That's why I always have them stamp it and sign it in the middle.
Yep, stamp it and
sign in that number 7.
Absolutely.
And another thing, I don't care if your truck is leased to somebody. Like you may have some people that lease to you. That bill of lading has to have, if you got a company name, it has to have your name on it.
Yes.
Because you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get paid. Not the people leased to you, but you're not going to get paid.
Correct.
That guy goes out there and he's got his business name on that truck. And he goes up there and he gets that bill of lading. They put Jimmy Crack Corn on there instead of whatever the name of yours is. You're not going to get paid.
Correct.
Because your name was not on there. And this subcontracting, people are thinking, well, I brokered it through another company, so that broker has subcontracted it to me. So that makes it legal because I signed a rate con. No, it don't. I got news for you. Map 21 takes all that out.
Yep, sure does. That, by definition,
so
that is
be aware of that.
That is double brokering by definition. Absolutely not legal. And that people, they laugh at me. Now, obviously, you take it seriously. You had an issue with it, and you take it seriously. Several people that I know have had the load taken off of their truck for this reason. And one of my drivers, after explaining this to him, one of my drivers went so far that he actually had the shipper called the police on him because he refused to leave their property until the paperwork was correct. He absolutely refused. And the sheriff department came out, they looked at the paperwork and said, you know what, that he's right. I mean, he is under no obligation to take this load like that. And you can unload it. And, of course, they can make you sit there all day. There's nothing you can do to force them to take it. But he did. He told them, take this load off my truck. He sat there a couple hours, but he left it right in their dock door. He didn't move. If that paperwork is not right, you risk huge lawsuits, not getting paid, freight claims, all of that, the insurance not covering anything. And all it takes is just something not signed correctly or misworded on these bills, on the bill of lading itself.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I just think these young drivers coming into this industry, I'm thankful for them, but they need to know some stuff. They don't just need to come out here and look at the money or the green sign. They need to know what could happen in an instant.
I agree with you. I absolutely. I want to put you back on hold. I appreciate your input on that. The bill of lading is a contract, a legally binding contract. It's a receipt of goods. When you get that bill of lading from the shipper and you sign it, you're accepting the freight. Now, if there's damage on the freight and you don't have anything notated, that's on you. If the count is wrong and you don't notate that it was loaded by the shipper, counted by the shipper, that is on you as the driver. You should always sign shipper load and count. Unless, if they won't allow it, a lot of shippers will not allow you to sign it that way. And they won't allow you to sign it that way because they know what that means. They know that means they are responsible. So if they want you to take responsibility, you need to count that freight. Now, if that bill of lading says that there are 1,700 cases staggered across, 26 pallets or what have you, you need to count each one of those cases. Or you need to be prepared to buy them if you're short or if there's any damages. 1,700 cases is a lot to count. But absolutely you should do it. Most drivers won't. But if you don't, and you get to the other end, and you're short 10 cases or 100 cases or whatever it is, that is on you, the company, because you signed for it that you received it all on that bill of lading. Now, If they load it, they won't let you count it. You can write, ship, or load and count. If they won't let you, you make them take it off and you count each one. If they won't unstack the pallets, you can count each case. On the cases or on the pallets, you can write on the bill of lading 26 pallets said to contain this amount. If you don't, be prepared to buy any missing product. Has to be notated. Everything has to be in writing. If there's any discrepancy, if they are loading the freight and you look and they've got something loaded in there, glass windows or something, and they're not securing the freight, they just throw it in, and you think that it might be broken when you get to the other end because they didn't load it properly, it's on the driver to make sure that that freight is secured properly. If for some reason they won't allow you to, and they seal it or what have you, it needs to be notated on the bills that the shipper loaded it, shipper secured the freight, the driver was not allowed to. Shipper load and count, shipper secured, all of that. We here at Patriot Star recently had a freight claim, and this was the issue. The driver went in, he noticed that they were not securing stuff. They were rolling these machines on, they're throwing a strap over it, but they weren't strapping stuff down properly, and the driver brought it up and said, I wouldn't strap it that way. I don't think that will hold. And they said, we know what we're doing. We are engineers. We want you to stand aside. You're just a piddly old truck driver. You don't know anything. Stand aside while we do this. And we got to the other end. Sure enough, a couple of those machines were damaged, and they tried to file a claim on us. But we went back to that and said, look, we brought it up. They would not let us touch it. It's notated, and we are not responsible. We are not going to pay this claim. And, we're still in a legal battle over that because now they want to hold the freight charges. But the freight charges and the claim are two separate issues. That brings up another contractual issue that is extremely important. Almost every broker carrier agreement these days says something to the effect of right of offset. They have the right to offset freight claims by holding your freight bill. If you get to a receiver and something is notated on that freight bill that there are any types of damages that could show that maybe someday in the future they could file a claim. Now, they could file a claim up to 9 months after you make a delivery. It doesn't have to be that day or that week. 9 months they have. If they notate it on that bill and you have the right of offset in your contract, they can and will hold not only the freight charges for that load, but any freight charges that they owe you. So if you have a single truck today and you just sign the contract without reading the fine print and then you sign away that right of offset, next year you decide to grow a fleet, you have 10 trucks, and you're working for this broker, you may have $100,000 outstanding. Now you have $100,000 outstanding and somebody notates on the bills that there was damages. There could be a freight claim. That broker has the right of offset. They can hold $100,000 of your money until that freight claim is settled. Not just filed, but settled. They have 9 months to file a claim. From that point, it could go to court and could take up to 2 additional years. So 2 years and 9 months, close to 3 years, they could hold your money. Now, people say, oh, that would never happen. I can promise you that there is a pretty large fleet out there that many of you have probably heard about that was put out of business because of this very clause, the right of offset. Now, in my case, I am really strict about contracts, as you all know. I talk about it all the time. I redlined that. I would not allow the right of offset. When this claim happened, they tried to hold about $4,000 of freight charges that they owed us. I contacted their accounts payable department, and they said that load is on hold. We cannot release payments because there is a potential claim. I said, well, here's the problem. You do not have right of offset with us. The freight claim and the freight charges are 2 separate transactions. People don't realize that it is 2 separate transactions. In order for them to file a claim, they have to hire you to move the load. If they don't pay you for the freight charges, they have not completed their end of the deal. They can't actually file a claim. Now, if you allow that right of offset in their contracts, that kind of waives that whole provision. So here's what would have to happen now. That broker would have to pay the freight chargers in full. I would have to cash that check. Then the broker could file a claim, and if we deny the claim, then they could take it to court. But imagine this. Imagine they decided not to pay me. I deny the freight claim, so they take me to court to get their charges back. Or I take them to court to get paid. If they tell the judge, or what have you, if they tell in court, their story is, we hired this company to move this freight and there was damages. If I said, they hired me but they didn't pay me, by default, you're done. It's dismissed. They can't file a freight claim for something that they never hired you to do. They hired you, but they never paid you. They never completed the deal. On the other hand, I could turn around and sue them for not paying me the freight charges. It's two separate transactions. So always look for that right of offset. There is another gentleman in one of the Facebook groups. One of the big brokers out there has that right of offset. They will not let you waive it. They will not let you make edits to their contract. This is one of those brokers that knows everything and you know, everything is in their favor. But they have so much volume of freight that most people will have to just take their lashings and accept their contract as is. But right of offset is in there. They use it often. They are notorious for using it. So much as the smallest little notation on a bill of lading, and they could hold every penny they owe you. They will hold it right up until that 9 months. That 9 months goes by, and they'll turn around. They may release your money if a freight claim is filed. And mind you, it could be, they could have $100,000 of your money that they owe you because you have a fleet of trucks running almost exclusively for them. $1 million that they owe you. You have a $50 freight claim. They could hold every penny of that. Now, here's the thing. The fleet that went out of business recently, it was about $100,000 that they were owed. This company held every penny of that. The owner of that fleet said, I will just pay it. I don't care. They don't even have to file the claim. I am just going to buy that product. And then there's no claim to be filed. Just release the rest of the money to me. Please, you're holding $100,000 hostage over a $750 freight claim. That's what it was. The broker said, nope, we're not going to do it because the way our contract reads is we can hold your money until they file a claim. We don't want your money. We don't want to pay for the claim. What we want is we want to hold your money. That was their intention. They can keep that money in their bank account, earning interest, and finance all of their other operations with your money because they have that in their contract. How many of you have signed contracts without reading them? How many of you know if brokers, and I would say better than half of the brokers out there have right of offset in their contracts. How many of you have tried to redline that? Brokers do use that. And I will tell you this, in today's market, we are in a carrier-favored market. Brokers, their margins are dwindling. A lot of brokers are locked into long-term contracts, and the rates are not high enough in their contracts. Their margins are too small. They're doing everything they can to finance their businesses, and if that means holding your money as long as possible, and if there's a contract in place that says that they can, they will absolutely do it. Brokers are using these provisions right now. A lot of people come to me and they say, you know what, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've signed every contract. I've never had a problem. It only takes one time. Everything you've worked for 30 years, you could lose it all because of one instance. These contracts do matter, and the brokers are out there and they're using these against us. If you have any more questions or comments, we have a couple more calls here I want to get to. Dial the number at the bottom of your screen, 917-889-9924. Again, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Blog Talk Radio. If you are driving tonight and listening to us on one of the video streams, do yourself a favor, shut off the video stream and call into the live phone line, 917-889-9924. You can listen live while the show is going on. If you have anything you'd like to add, go ahead and press 1 on your keypad. But please do not be watching these videos while you're driving down the road. You have the opportunity to just listen on the phone lines. It's the best way to do it. And also, we will be streaming. The recorded shows will stream again on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern time, that is, on L&J Radio. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the recordings. It's a great opportunity to catch some of the older shows while you're driving. Let me take another call here. We're going to jump to Matt in Texas. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thanks. What's on your mind, Matt?
I'm doing great today. Hey, everything's going well. I'm just calling and doing an update here. You know, we called in about a month ago and was wanting to know information about getting the authority and filing and doing everything yourself. And we're right at about a month again. I've got everything done and completed, and now we're just waiting on the green light from the FMCSA. And I just want to tell everyone out there that, you know, if they're not sure they can do it or not, you know, you absolutely can do it. Save yourself the $600, $800, $1,000. You know, those are the numbers that other companies are charging. And I just feel that I'm glad to be a part of that process. I understand it, and being a part of the business that, you know, I'm taking baby steps to grow. So.
Absolutely. Now, something that I want to point out is a lot of these companies say that if you pay them to get your authority, if you pay them $1,000 or $1,500, then they can do it faster. A friend of mine recently got his authority. He wouldn't listen to me. One of these companies, you know, said, you know what, I can expedite this. You'll have your authority in 10 days. You'll have everything active in 10 days. So he gave them an extra $600 because they said they could do it faster. He went and applied for everything, paid them to expedite it. They didn't do anything. His authority went active on the 20th day. Typically 20, 21, 22 days, right in that 3-week period is when everybody goes active. They didn't do anything to expedite the process. That $600 he paid them was flushed down the toilet. There are a lot of scam companies out there. That's one of the reasons back when I first started the show, that's one of the motivating factors, which I explained to people that there are a lot of scam operations out there that will say that. There's nothing that they can do for you that you can't do for yourself in the beginning.
Right, absolutely. And the thing is, too, is, you know, interested in becoming an hazmat carrier, there's some other things you got to registration. You got to register with PHMSA, and you have to make sure that you check the right boxes. And because there's two different kinds. If you want to be a hazmat carrier, there's the high risk hazmat, and you also have to have a safety permit for that. That's a $5 million insurance. You can haul hazmat with a $1 million insurance. And that was my only mistake was. I accidentally selected the wrong boxes, so I'm just waiting on that reduction reversal, and then everything's set to go. So we're all got the truck ready to go. We got the plates, just then we can go get the IRP and be finished up. We talked to a customer today, a potential direct customer. You know, we're knocking on some doors, and sounds like there's some good opportunity there. One of the issues that the customer was having was the reweight charge, because it's an LTL carrier. You know, they would take the freight in and reweigh the skids, and they would back charge the company for that. And you know, we got to talking. I said, well, that's not really an issue for me. You know, if it's on the truck, it's on the truck. You know, so there's no reweighing needed. So there's a good contact there, good lead. If nothing else, it's good practice for going in and interviewing with new customers.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that went well.
Anyway, Kenny, I just wanted to give you a shout and tell you thank you for everything that you've done, man. We're rocking it.
That's awesome, Matt. I'm going to put you back on hold here. I'm glad things are going well for you, and about a week or so you'll be up and running active, and I'm looking forward to watching your progress as well. Thank you for the call. Thanks for the support. Glad it's working out. There's some discussion on Facebook about the Bill of Ladings, and just to clear things up, is it okay to write your company's name with a pen next to your signature? Someone else said sign the Bill of Lading with your name and your company name. And Greg says his insurance agent told him today that your carrier name must be on the Bill of Lading for the cargo claim to pay, which is what we were saying. Yes. Now, when you get a bill of lading from a shipper, now one thing to remember is the bill of lading should be supplied by the carrier. By law, the carrier is responsible to supply the bill of lading. It's the carrier's job. What that means is if the shipper supplies it, it's the carrier's job to make sure that it's correct. So, most shippers supply the bill of lading in triplicate. They have one for you to sign at the shipper end, one to sign at the receiver end, and one to keep for yourself. All three of those copies need to be identical. So if it says another name, broker name, carrier name, what have you, yes, you could write your name on it, next to it, sign it with your name. Your name has to be on there. But remember that it must be on the shipper's copy and on the receiver's copy, and they have to match. And then when you bill it with your own copy, it better match as well. Anybody can write something on there after the fact. If it's not on the shipper's copy and it's not on the receiver's copy, but you write it on your own copy to bill it, it's pretty much worthless. It must be on the page that the shipper and receiver have. If they file a claim, they're going to file a claim to the name that's on that bill of lading. If they file a claim with another company, your insurance company will not pay it. You are not the carrier of record. All right, we should be back. Electrical fault here. Okay, so we're back. Make sure we're good on both ends here. So the signature and the carrier name, the carrier of record, must be on all of the copies. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You could write anything you want on the bill of lading after the fact. But if it's not on the shipper and receiver's copy, if they file a claim, it's not going to you. So it doesn't matter. All right. Now, some brokers understand the issue, and in their contracts, they list it that the broker is not supposed to be listed as the carrier of record. But they understand that shippers will do it for their convenience. And they say that if the broker is listed as the carrier of record, that does not make them the carrier. It only applies for the convenience of that shipper. The shippers don't understand it. They don't care to understand it. All they care about is that the freight gets out the door and they get everything paid properly. They think they're protected when the name on the bill is who they contracted it to, but they're not. And it's really the driver and the carrier that need to educate the shippers and let them understand that it is for their own benefit that the receiver, or the carrier rather, is listed as the carrier of record on the bill of lading. All right. Got another call here. Again, my call screener is out of the office, had to run to the airport quickly. So I've got another call I'll bring on from the 816 area code. Be ready. You're going right live. 816 area code. What's on your mind? Where are you calling from? What's your name?
What's going on? This is Kenneth out here in Kansas City. I'm the one that's always raging about the load board ninjas and all that kind of stuff. Hey, that's me, man. They were going wild today. Here's a question. I started getting some new contracts in, and I'm reading them, and that was some good info you put up. But here's something new that I'm starting to notice is they're putting in there, the carrier waives the right to reasonable dispatch. And I'm trying to wrap my head around what that exactly means. I think I didn't really see that until the ELDs came into play, but maybe you could kind of explain it.
Okay. Reasonable dispatch means the broker must allow enough time to legally deliver the load with hours of service in mind. Brokers are putting things, they think this protects them, but it absolutely does not. They are putting things in place in their contracts to say you waive the right to reasonable dispatch. First of all, forget the reasonable dispatch part. Waive your rights. How many people think it's a good idea to waive any rights? Any rights. So the first thing is get your red pen out. Anywhere in the contract it says waive your rights. Your rights mean you are guaranteed. You have legal protections. The government gives you legal protections, your rights. You don't want to waive your rights. Never waive your rights, any rights. But waiving your rights to reasonable dispatch means if you are late, if you have any type of fines and so forth because you are late, and you waived your right to reasonable dispatch, means those fines all fall on your shoulders. Absolutely not. Do not accept anything like that. That's not even an ethical thing to put into a contract. So what they're saying is they could dispatch you on a 1,000-mile load and schedule the appointments for 8 hours, to get there. And if you don't make it on time, it's your responsibility, and they don't have to pay you. You have to pay the fines because it's not reasonable dispatch. It's not even possible dispatch. Reasonable dispatch means you should reasonably be able to arrive on time for all of the appointments with the legal hours of service in mind without having any recourse or any fear of penalties. Now, brokers are putting that in there because of the ELDs, you're right, but something to understand is that brokers are taking a huge risk right now trying to force anything that would say that they would not give you reasonable dispatch, because this new ELD law, and it is a law, this new rule says that they cannot coerce you into do anything that would break the hours of service. That would be coercion. If they put a fine on you, if there is a fine that says if you are late, and you are late because of an hours of service violation because of a reasonable dispatch issue, that would be coercion. If a broker put that in their contract and they won't let you read it out, that is exactly how I would fight that. That's how I would negotiate that. It would be coercion, and they could be fined and penalized for that.
That's interesting, because I'm going to tell you something. Where these clauses are coming from, you really have to dig into the meat of these contracts. It's buried in there like a tick.
Oh, yeah.
You really got to read it and go through it with a highlighter, and you go, what in the hell is this?
Yep.
And, that's how I actually found it. Okay. Thanks a bunch, Kenny. I'll just sit here and we'll jug the rest of your show, brother. Take care.
Thanks a lot, Kenneth. The people ask me all the time, because I talk about it all the time on this show. I read every contract, either myself or Elizabeth. We literally read every line of every contract. Somebody recently said, you mean you read every line of these 20-page long contracts? And the answer is yes. Every single word, every line. Because of things like Kenneth just said, this stuff is buried in there. I have literally seen contracts that say the broker does not have to pay you. I mean, in maybe if worded a different way, but essentially that's what it translates to. The broker doesn't have to pay you if they don't want to. It says that in the contract, and people sign it blatantly without paying any attention. Here's one to pay attention to be careful of in regards to payment. Anything that basically takes the broker's risk and puts it on the shoulder of the shipper. So in other words, the broker will say something to the effect in their contract of the carrier, the broker is the sole party responsible for billing the shipper. And if the broker doesn't pay, the carrier cannot contact the shipper to pay. Okay, that's the first thing. Then they say if the broker or if the shipper does not pay the broker is not obligated to pay the carrier. Here's the problem with that, and this is in a lot of contracts. Everybody likes to talk about how they check the broker's credit. They check the credit history of the brokers. Who checks the credit history of the shippers that the brokers are working with? When a broker has that in their contract, I will redline that. I have had brokers come back and say, we can't allow you to redline that. It's too much risk on us as the broker. We can't let you do that. So I say, okay, no problem. I will let that stand. Before we do business, I need a list of all of your your shippers. I need all of their contact information and all of the pertinent information to do credit checks on every one of your shippers. Every one, before we can do business. Because what you're asking me to do then is not extend you as the broker credit. You're asking me to extend your shippers, your customers' credit. In order for me to extend your customers' credit, I have to know who your customers are. So why don't you just send that list on over right now? That usually wins them over, and they understand where I'm coming from, because I have yet to have anyone give me their book of business. I'm hoping that they do, because if the way I see it is, if they give me that book of business before I sign their non-compete clause, to me, I haven't signed any agreement with them. It seems fair game to go after them directly. So any broker that has anything like that in their contract, it's unbelievable that they would even attempt it. To me, not even ethical to put that stuff in the contract. Absolutely redline it. And, this show is not, I didn't intend for this to turn into a discussion about contracts, but lately, with rates being as high as they are, I have seen these types of little clauses in contracts that I warn everybody about all the time. I have seen brokers using these in their favor. I've seen them using them to their advantage. They do it all the time now. Now, when brokers are in a good market and they're making a ton of money, this stuff goes by the wayside. They don't care. They're not trying to pinch pennies. They've got the cash flow. But when things are tight like they are now, brokers start looking at their contracts and saying, how can we squeeze a few more pennies? How can we hold on to our money a little bit longer? This is what they do. So, all right. We are nearing the top of the hour, and I see the gentleman that I talked about that had a broker hold their money over a claim. I see he is in the Facebook group right now. He is not the only one it's happened to, but Gary there is in the Facebook group right now. And I'm just reading all these comments here. So, now I talk about contracts all the time. One of the things that I think would be important, now the whole discussion tonight was about business ownership. Is it the right time? One of the things that I think is important is, before you go into business, you need to understand the legal aspects of the business you're getting into. A lot of carriers or a lot of drivers get into business. They buy a truck, they lease to a carrier. I have had drivers lease to me that don't even read the contracts. I know they don't. And I see David is in the group right now in Facebook, and I mean he said it right over the right across the table from me. You're going to give me a hard time about not reading this, right? So, but yeah, you need to read the contract you sign with the carrier. Now, I try to be fair with my contracts, both on my broker side and on the carrier side. But, there are times when, I talk about these electronic signatures. A lot of brokers right now are putting out the RMIS or DAT onboarding, or there's a few other ones out there where the brokers can put their contract electronically, send you a link. So all you have to do, you scroll through the contract, can't make any changes. You just scroll through the contract, and at the bottom, you just click the checkbox that says, I agree to all this, and you type your name in. And essentially, you've electronically signed it. There have been times, there's a couple of brokers in particular, Elizabeth or I, one of us has spent, a couple of hours. Some of the small brokers, we know it's going to be a once-and-done type load. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But some of the bigger brokers, U.S. Express, Uber Freight, let's see, we've talked to C.H. Robinson, J.B. Hunt, and some of the big ones. I mean, we're going to work with them long-term relationships, right? We know that going in. We have literally spent hours on the phone with some of these companies renegotiating their contracts. People just sign them and they don't care, but we spent a lot of time renegotiating. The funny thing is, we spend all of that time with their attorneys or their legal team, whatever it is. Maybe they're just maybe they're just the higher ups that are capable of making the decisions and the call on that. But we have spent hours on that, negotiating contracts. Then they turn around a few months later and say, hey, we need you to update the contract. They send me a link to one of these electronic contracts and expect me just to check the box at the bottom. Absolutely not. Here's what I'll do. You can send me a PDF version, and allow me to make the edits again, or you can, I can forward you the contract that I currently have. What a lot of them are doing right now, I can tell you, is they are saying that they are updating their contracts to add language about the ELDs and to add language about the Food Safety Act that was recently passed back in the middle of last year. Those two items. I have yet to see a contract that has any language about either of those issues. I've had at least a dozen contact me and say they want me to update my contract for those two issues. The ELDs, they want to make sure that they probably have something in there they want me to write about waiving my reasonable dispatch, like Kenneth was saying, or they want me to write something about the Food Safety Act. When I get these contracts in electronic form, I have yet to find one, and these are all from these big brokers, I've yet to find one that has any language pertaining to any of that. The only reason they want me to sign new contracts is because they want the most updated, and the carriers that do take the time, like myself, to edit these contracts, they're just trying to weed those guys out. Because of the freight market the way it is right now, the way that I edit the contracts is in my favor, not their favor. And they try to get us to sign them again, sign a new contract. Usually, I tell them I'm not going to do that. The contract I have in place says that it's good for a year, and I only signed it a month or two ago, so we can work under that contract. If you want me to sign a new one, we can just renew that contract, or the contract renews automatically every year. There's no reason for me to sign a new contract. I'm happy with the old contract. So you have the option. You need my truck. We know you need my truck because capacity is tight. We can work on the old contract, or we can not work at all, and you can go find some other truck. So, and a lot of times that works as well. Being in the carrier's market is good for business for carriers and allows a lot more leverage, not with just negotiating rates, but also negotiating contracts. So keep that in mind. All right. So for anybody that wants more information about the bill of lading contract, about broker carrier agreements, about lease agreements to carriers, any of the above, I have spent a lot of time researching it myself. I have talked to different attorneys about it, and I keep going back to the same source because this is the easiest access and the most common man's language. And I've recommended it hundreds of times on the show in the past, but transportationlaw.net, attorney Hank Seaton. And for those of you that follow Rico Muhammad's podcast on Wednesdays, Hank Seaton is a frequent guest over there. He gives away a lot of this information for free. He is an actual freight attorney in the trucking industry, and he is right there in Virginia, beating the pavement there in Washington, D.C., fighting the FMCSA. I mean, he is probably one of the higher up attorneys in the freight industry that you're going to find, and he wrote a book all about contracts called Protecting Motor Carriers' Interests in Contracts. Simple title. It's about $20, but you can find his book at transportationlaw.net. So I don't want to take any credit for the information I'm putting out. I got a lot of it from him and a lot of it from my own experience, but transportationlaw.net. And he has, in that book, there is a whole chapter just about the bill of lading. There's another chapter just about broker carrier agreements and all of the horrible things that they try to put in there. Brokers are using these the little items against us now, so be very, very careful. All right. All right. Greg said, can you speak with how you handle a clause you do not like with a broker? And that's how. I just negotiate with it. And if the person on the phone, the agent, can't discuss it with me, I ask to speak to somebody that can. And again, we have gone all the way up the chain, to one of these satellite offices, and we've gone up the corporate ladder. We've talked to people, I've actually talked to people in other countries that want us to edit their contracts or so forth. Some of the big freight brokers, you would be surprised when you talk to their legal team, when you start pointing out these little items, they say, nobody's ever questioned that. Matter of fact, that claim that I was discussing earlier, where my driver helped them, pointed out that they were not securing the freight properly and there was damage on the other end. When I crossed out that line, the red line that right of offset, and that was in their contract. And I brought that up to their accounts payable, and they had to go to their supervisor, and they pulled the contract. They called me back later, and they said, you know, you're right. You did redline that. We don't know what that means. We don't know what to do. They literally had to go up. They had to get advice. They had no idea how to handle it. No, and they told me, they said, nobody's ever done that before. Nobody's ever questioned us on that before. Well, it's my hope that I am not the last. I hope all of you start paying attention to these contracts and protect yourselves. All right. There's some discussion in the groups about detention. There's discussion in the groups, more discussion about contracts. But I think I'll be getting off on a tangent if I start talking about a lot of this stuff. So I think this is a good time to wrap it up. We have gone just a couple minutes over. I have been going an hour and a half to 2 hours on some of these shows. This is supposed to be an hour-long show. Obviously, I can just keep talking, but I think it's time to wrap things up. Let me make sure I don't have any other calls on the line. Looks like we're good. If anybody has any questions, I'll finish up here real quick. Anybody that's on the line right now, if you press 1 right now, I'll try to get your questions on the air. If not, I think this is a good time to call it a night. So, and there we go. So we have one that popped up right here. So we're going to take this one last call. This will be the final call of the night. We're going to go to the 678 area code. 678 area code. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? How can we help you? And first, I guess we have to figure out how to bring him on the air. Here we go. 678, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Hey, how you doing? I've been listening to you, and I actually tried one of the things you said. I'm a brand new owner operator.
Congratulations.
But today I experienced where a broker, they were trying to get me to do a load from Atlanta to Dallas, Texas, like 800 miles, and they wanted me to do it for like $1,200. And I declined it, and they just kept coming back, and they finally gave me the 16, even though I declined that, and I'm actually heading to Maine. But I just want to say I'm glad that you talk about never just accepting what they throw out there, and I always ask for more.
Absolutely, yes, and that's all part of the negotiation. One thing that we always have in our back pocket, the most powerful tool in negotiation that we have, is the ability to just say no, because we can go another direction. We can take a load from somebody else. We always have a plan B, even if that plan B means we just deadhead somewhere else. We always have a plan B. So there's always something better out there. And, in the market that we're in right now, it's really important to understand your numbers, your own numbers, but it's also important to understand the market that you're in. So use all the tools available. There's a lot of free tools out there. You've got DAT trend lines, especially the Atlanta market. The Atlanta, years ago, I was leased to a carrier, one of the bigger fleets. This was 15 years ago almost. And I stayed with them for a whole 2 weeks in a row even. So a whole 2 weeks in a row. And the reason that I was only there 2 weeks is I was in Atlanta. Atlanta is the hub of the country. And they were telling me that they could not find any freight out. When you're in Atlanta, now granted, it may not be the best rates depending on the supply and demand factor there. But that there are always going to be loads in Atlanta, okay? Name your price. Understand what the market will bear and call it, ask for what you can get. Ask for what the market will bear. If they can't move the load, if you say no enough times and they can't move the load, they'll have to go back to their customer and renegotiate, or they'll have to come out of pocket themselves. Another thing to bring up for a new carrier like yourself, I'll be adding my 15th truck this month, and I'm pretty proud of that. And,
oh, wow.
I have literally thousands of brokers. It seems like I can't believe that there are still brokers out there that I'm not set up with, but it seems that every single day, I still have at least 1 or 2 carrier packets to fill out every day. And even with that, the thousands of brokers, the biggest problem that I have right now as a carrier that's been around for a while and with this many trucks is there's a lot of shippers out there that I would love to go after, but I can't because there's back solicitation clauses in a lot of these contracts. Now, that's one thing that you have to be careful of with back solicitation clauses. You don't want to make it overly strict. In other words, let's say you haul a load for Ford Motor Company out of Dearborn, Michigan. Well, now you have a Ford Motor Company load on the other side of the country. Technically, that broker introduced you to Ford Motor Company, but come on, that's not, ethically reasonable to think that you wouldn't be able to take a load from a huge company like that, especially in a completely different facility. So make sure that your back solicitation clauses are not too strict. But I don't mind back solicitation clauses in a contract because ethically, if they do the hard work, I'm not going to try to steal their customers. I get that, okay? But that being said, you're a brand new carrier. There's a lot of people out there that you can go talk to. I mean, there's with the thousands of loads that we've done, there's still a lot of people that I can go talk to. But you, in particular, being brand new, there are thousands of these major carriers or shippers that you can contact before you go work with them through a broker. And in today's market, with the rates the way they are, you have a huge window of opportunity to get out there and secure some direct freight. So I would highly encourage you to do that. Start looking to build a dumbbell around your home area where you like to run into another city. Start looking in a 100-mile radius of where your home terminal is, your home area. Then find a city you like to go to and start looking at a 100-mile radius of there for a backhaul. Maybe you find a triangle, from point A to point B to point C back to point A, or just maybe back and forth between A and B. If you can figure that out, now is a fantastic time to secure some direct customers. And if you can take care of them now, when times get lean, and they will get lean again someday, it might be 2 or 3, 5 years from now, but someday things will get lean again. If you can do that now and take care of them now, they'll take care of you later. It's a good time to build those relationships. So as a new carrier, and anybody listening that's out there as a new carrier, now is a great time to start making it happen.
Well, thanks a lot, man. I really, really appreciate it. I've been gaining a lot of knowledge just from listening to you. So, I mean, what you say is, like I said, I'm brand new in this game, and I sit here and I listen to you every week, and I've been putting it to you, so it's working. I want to say thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And I'll tell you what, I've been doing this show for a few years. I put on that seminar last October. I'm planning on doing another one this year. That is the only time I've ever been paid for this, when I did the seminar. But I've been doing this show for years, and I know I've got a lot of people that I've helped. And, the thank yous and the responses I get back that's what it's all about for me. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate the support. And for everybody out there, thank you for sticking in there with me. We still have a lot of people on all of the streams. You can find the show, the recorded shows, at truckingwithauthorityshow.com, Trucking with Authority Show, or truckingwithauthorityradio.com, either one of those. That will take you right to the Blog Talk site. We will be developing some new web content here in the future, so check us out there. You can still stream it live on Blog Talk Radio every Tuesday at 7 p.m. L&J Radio, there will be recordings at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. And, of course, when we do the live streams, we will be trying to push those out on the video streams on Facebook and YouTube as well. So there's a lot of places to find us. Check us out. Like us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like the Facebook groups. And be sure to sign in and listen on the air on Blog Talk as well. So thank you all for joining me. Again, I could just talk all night long, but it's time to call it quits. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks. We'll see you again next week. Remember, dream big. Don't let anything hold you back. There is no limitation to what you can do. And aim high. As big as you can dream, make those dreams your goals. Aim high. Strategize a plan. And be ready. Write your plan down in pencil with a big eraser, because it'll change, but strategize that. Form a strategy to reach those goals. As high as they may be, if you have a plan, you'll get there. So strategize your plan. Earn your success, because we don't deserve anything. None of us deserve a handout. We have to earn it, but we all have the ability. So get out there and earn your success, because only you drive you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.